Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Adam.
I'm Norm.
I'm Danica.
Hey, Danica. Good to see you this morning.
Lovely to be here.
Welcome. We are in a secret bunker
Yes.
somewhere in the UK.
We've assembled. This looks like it looks like a boardroom that we've assembled to. You've intercepted us at our honeymoon.
And yes, you're right. And it looks like this is like the FaceTime, like we're having a meeting with somebody from somewhere far away.
Yes.
So we thought the best idea was to repeat everything you said in the first call and switch the words around a bunch.
But we're in England.
We are in England.
We're in a place in England. Danica and I, we just finished our honeymoon, and we've met up in a place for a work trip.
Right, but let's talk about your honeymoon for a minute, because you visited some amazing cities.
We
Yes.
did.
We went to London, Paris, Amsterdam,
And Prague.
and Prague.
And then back to London.
And then back to London. So
Yeah.
a few days in each?
Yeah, a few days in each, kind of like the Whitman sampler, I think, of traveling. And Danica's first time in Europe.
Which was amazing.
Oh, good. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it was spectacular.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I've been to all of those cities extensively, except for Prague. I've never been to Prague.
Prague is kind of magical. I think that fourth city was a little bit of a toss-up between that and Berlin. We got a lot of input from friends and ended up going to Prague because Berlin would feel, I think, a little bit more like another Paris or London, capital, big city.
From what I understand, Prague is more walkable than Berlin. I was in Berlin recently for the first time and spent a couple of days there. And it's big city. There's a lot to see, and it's really beautiful. And I felt like a little overwhelmed by how giant it was.
And Prague it's totally walkable. It's also very picturesque in a different way than, surprisingly, I think for us, Amsterdam was also very picturesque.
Amsterdam blew my freaking mind when I went.
The breakdown of everything is, we really enjoyed Paris. I personally loved Paris.
Yeah.
But I'm okay, not going there very often. It was an experience I wanted to have, and it's a beautiful culture, and I love old things, and that part was really cool. But, limited visitation.
Yeah.
Prague, we want to go back, actually, to Czech Republic and do more exploring. And we want to live in Amsterdam. Amsterdam was the most amazing city.
I called my wife from Amsterdam, and I'm like, all the houses are lit up. They all have windows that face the street. No one has their curtains closed. And through every window is a lit tableau of a life I would be happy to live.
Yeah, no, we totally did that with houseboats and with the houses. It's all canal front property.
Oh, so incredible.
Absolutely beautiful. But Prague was interesting. It is very centralized in the tourist area, which is where a lot of the old stuff is, which is really cool. So we had this amazing Airbnb that was one block off of Old Town Center, which has the astronomical clock and all these other things. But we were in walking distance to Prague Castle, which was great because that's where they keep more old stuff that's really cool. So we spent a day there.
You did museums in every city?
Oh, and I think that was the theme of this trip. I think when we think of how do you spend 2 weeks abroad, for a honeymoon occasion, people go to the beach. They do a Mexico trip or an all-inclusive. Or we wanted to walk and we wanted to go to museums, and so we did 20 museums in 12 days. London made it easy. Because
you went to one of my favorite museums, the V&A, and you saw a piece that I didn't know was still on display, but the wooden automata of the tiger eating the man.
Yes, from India, I think West India. It was a tiger mauling a man, but itself is a sound box that supposedly plays the screech of the man dying.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the expression on the tiger's face and the expression on the man's face, the way to have it displayed is so beautiful. There was a mirror, so even though you're seeing the side view, you're seeing the man's tilted expression of anguish, which was awesome.
And it's weirdly mannerist, it's not super realistic, so it also feels like you're looking at a carving of a Rousseau painting.
Yes. Yeah.
They could do a Tintoy version of this, and it would be perfect.
The most awesome Wednesday Addams type toy line. It's a tiger mauling a man, listen to his screams.
I mean, Washington, D.C., which I haven't been to in a long time, has a lot of free museums. We'll talk about them all the time, the Smithsonian. London feels very much the same way. You could spend days in London and not have to pay a pence.
And London blew my mind because everything that's on the walls is the stuff that was in my art history textbooks.
Very much.
Like, they have been pillaging longer than anybody else. They have all the best stuff.
Scale was a big surprising thing too, both in the art and the architecture. The art, when you see it in the textbook or even on your phone or your tablet, it's you can visualize the whole thing, but when you see a massive Rembrandt painting in person and it's 30 feet wide by 20 feet tall, it engulfs your entire visage, and you can see all the textural brushwork.
Well, and I went to the National Gallery. The most recent time was about 5 years ago with my sons. So they were 11 or 12, and I hadn't been there for a decade, and I didn't realize until I was walking through that, oh, actually, even though I never really took a college-level art history class, I know a college-level art history's amount of information, and I started talking to them about what they were looking at, about 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th century painting. And because of the way it was laid out at that point, we were getting a course in the shifting movement of how painting changed how we look at ourselves. And there was this way in which you moved from the Mannerist sort of slightly weird portraits of the 17th century to the more realistic and the more incredible, and then you get to the Impressionists, and I just remember coming upon the Degas paintings of the dancers and the light, and I'm getting goosebumps as I described it. I got teary because it was so overwhelming to feel this progression of aesthetic history happening, and the gallery lays it out so beautifully.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah, the Musée d'Orsay in Paris has Degas' dancers as well as his sculptures of those dancers working in multiple mediums. And then the buildings, the scaled, I mean, in America, we're lucky if we have things that are over 100 years old in the cities that we live in. And you're standing in, at 11 p.m. in the center of the Louvre, and everything's well lit. Yeah. So like all their massive monuments and museums are lit at night, and people are walking around engulfed by what looks like buildings for giants. Yeah. So in London, there is a film museum, and we did go to there. It was okay. Yeah. They currently have an exhibit on James Bond cars, which is like the whole collection. And that was the
DB5.
Enjoyed it.
More than that, they had all of the other peripheral vehicles, like the water stuff and the submarines, like this, that, and the other, and all the cars.
Oh my gosh!
And some miniatures, some costumes. But if you're looking for a more comprehensive film museum type experience, between now and September, I have to give a shout out at the Barbican Center. They have an exhibit called Into the Unknown, which is just about the science fiction, and it has so many great things from science fiction, film, and media, books, TV.
Here's a question. You're such a wonderful photographer. I'm curious if you have a different hat on your honeymoon about documenting your trip than you do at Comic-Con, and I'm further wondering if you were thinking about posting a gallery on Tested so that people can see Norm's personal honeymoon photos.
Would you like me to post my collection of me taking photos of Norm taking photos of this entire exhibit?
Yes,
because I have that.
That should listen. I totally think we should post that.
I tweeted out just a small selection. It is a giant collection. It was amazing. He was the look in his eyes, and every time we walked into a new section to see what was there, it was pure joy.
But I think to answer your question, that was at the Barbican Center for this special exhibit, which I knew, having read about it online, I would want to bring a DSLR. For the first half of the trip, I didn't bring the DSLR around and walking around because it's a little heavy, it's 5 pounds, and we want to do a lot of walking, and I just had the iPhone, and I wasn't happy with those photos.
Yeah. Really?
I felt the missed opportunity. Like the photos turned out okay, but they're not like close-ups, and you don't get the different focal lengths. You can get only so much perspective, and it's complete. I don't know the phrase for FOMO, for not having your best gear to capture the experience the best way possible. But it definitely changes when you have a DSLR, and we're in an exhibit. Like I'm spending 3 times as much time at each object to photograph, then to absorb, and then to rephotograph, then to move on.
Do you think that there's a reticence to spend that amount of time with just an iPhone at the same place. Because I feel like if I'm on a random street, like I was in the place we are staying now, I was walking back from dinner last night, and I just was taking pictures down each of the streets. But I also thought, I would love to have my DSLR right now, because I would spend more time really sculpting these shots. Whereas with an iPhone, I feel like a little bit like an asshole.
You can't not look like an asshole.
Is it iPad or iPhone?
I'm using the iPad Pro to take photos.
Yeah.
I think in your mind you don't think of them as archival.
I do.
With your phone.
But I also notice that I'm reticent to spend a lot of time taking a whole bunch of photos with the iPhone.
Yeah, and I think with the phone, I think it's more a bookmark to recall, but it's not the thing that I'm going to blow up or the thing that I'm going to be especially proud of just because I know I can come back and...
But, I mean, it's a choice you make to either be more present in what's happening or to document it in a more official way. Also the wear and tear on having to carry all that weight.
That gear is, I've come back from trips to Europe with a bad shoulder that required a couple of weeks to recover because I had the camera gear bag over it for the whole time.
In no time were we not surrounded by something extraordinary where the camera would have been handy.
Yeah.
But it was still the better option to be present during your honeymoon.
I totally agree.
And we should just go back.
So while you guys were traveling, we all went and saw a movie in separate cities. And I want to talk about it.
Yes.
We haven't talked about it on the podcast
It is
yet.
the title of this podcast. It is going to be a spoiler cast. The funny story for us is, and we're of course talking about Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
The movie came out, I think, June 1st, I want to say, in the States. And the ramp up, the contextual ramp up, like the buzz for this film was building. The reviews had come out, Rotten Tomatoes 95%, glowing reviews everywhere. Studios were reevaluating how much money you think it was going to make. I think they initially estimated $75 million at most. Comparing it to Thor and Captain America.
They thought that globally or U.S.?
U.S. first weekend.
Okay, so it exceeded their expectations by 25%.
Which is incredible. And for us, we were in Amsterdam. The movie didn't come out for 2 weeks.
Yeah. And this is something we've been looking forward to. I mean, forever.
Yeah. I watched those trailers a lot. Right? Getting really excited about what was going to happen. And this is one of those rare cases where, watching trailers, getting excited about a movie is nothing but an exercise in repeated disappointment in many ways. And this was one where I felt totally delivered.
So we rectified that. We saw it twice. We saw it in London and in Prague. And I guess we should talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Spoiler-free first.
Spoiler-free first.
Yeah.
I loved the crap out of it. I loved its humor. I loved her performance, Gal Gadot's performance.
Gadot.
Is it Gadot? Gal Gadot.
It's not going to catch on. The accuracy is not going to catch on, but yes.
I loved Gal Gadot's performance. I thought it had this beautiful amount of humor, self-awareness, agency, innocence, and I put that list in that order purposefully because she was not just a stranger in this strange land, and yet they did milk that for some good humor, and it was really exciting. I mean, it was all the things I want out of a movie, and I'll say, even though I think the criticisms about the final fight with the villain, Ares, I agree with many of those criticisms. I didn't think it was a perfect final fight, and it was one of the weaker aspects of the movie. I didn't care. I loved all the characters. I had fun all the way through, and I left. I sat there. I clapped along with the audience. When does that happen? Yeah. Not very often.
Danica's been a big fan of Wonder Woman, right? Forever, from Linda Carter on. And did you guys ever watch the leaked pilot for that TV, the David E. Kelly Wonder Woman? So
no.
Wonder Woman was going to be a TV show, I believe, in 7 years ago or so.
That sounds right.
And they made a pilot, unfinished, and it was leaked out on the internet. And it was a more modern take on Wonder Woman. The actress
Adrienne Palicki.
I don't know her
and
work.
The costume was super shitty looking, like vinyl or pleather pants. I mean, there's nothing right about this. Like, it looked like a joke from the beginning. Like, we're just being trolled.
It was her in modern day after running a corporation, but also still fighting as Wonder Woman. And at the end, it was very David D. Kelly. I don't want to say like Ally McBeal Wonder Woman, but at the end, she's on her computer signing up for like a social media account or like a dating account or something. Yeah.
Wow.
Which was, I'm glad this movie wasn't that, because the journey for a Wonder Woman movie to be made it's gone. Hollywood very resistant to making movies with female-led stars.
As Joss Whedon famously said after Guardian's success, well, now that Hollywood has seen that a raccoon can anchor a tentpole film, maybe they'll let a woman try it.
And he at one point was attached to direct a Wonder Woman movie 10 years ago.
And a wonderful choice to do it too.
Yes.
I mean, he has always been wonderfully female centric in his direction. Has made some of my favorite female characters in any media.
Yeah, but Patty Jenkins was
totally slated.
Really, really great choice. What did you think?
Well, we should preface by saying that we had this date, or on our first date, we had this conversation about like Wonder Woman's my favorite. I'm really glad they haven't done another movie. They haven't made a movie. They haven't touched it. I'm okay with this because if they try it, they're gonna fuck it up. And the number one thing for me is I did not want them to maul her.
Yeah.
Especially with the way that the DC universe has been handled. Like I want her to have no part in it. If they're going to give her this treatment, that's just gonna make me sad. So I had a lot of concern about it, and initially I did have concern about Gal Gadot's casting, because casting a crazy, beautiful, super skinny model actress to play Wonder Woman is kind of doesn't really fit what you think of her. She's supposed to be Amazonian. She's supposed to be big and muscular and powerful, and so I was a little skeptical. And I have to say, I didn't get on board really with it until I saw the armor. And the armor is not, even now it's not perfect, but that armor is so beautiful and so interesting. And then to see her in it after she's beefed up a little bit, you just see it and it's hers. And then to see what she actually does with it in film is just so satisfying. Because she does have that range of being naive in some parts of things that she doesn't know about, but she's not a naive character.
No.
So to see that...
she's not. She never suffers for her naivete. And the film doesn't give her any comeuppance for it, and it doesn't make her weak. I love how much, slight spoiler, how much agency she has in the love scene. And actually, that love scene between her and Chris Pine. First of all, I said this to you guys at dinner last night. Nobody leers less than Chris Pine.
Well, as Kirk, that was like he was hired. I mean, that character is a leerer.
Right, and that scene between the two of them is this remarkable, very careful movement of two people towards each other rather than one person being the leader. It is this really wonderful dance, and she has all the agency in this scene.
Yeah, he looks like, what's going on? I don't know what's going to go on. And she's like, you are mine.
It's great. It's just...
and he is fantastic. I think he is given so much to work with, and it's been made a point now, I think, that if he in the role of this film is the quote-unquote superhero girlfriend, which, he is the analog to in Thor, to Natalie Portman's character and to Lois Lane, right? Like, if you compare those roles,
indeed,
like you talk, that shows you how little the Natalie Portman character, who is supposed to be the physicist, or the astrophysicist, is given in Thor.
Well, and just even from the trailer, if you watch the trailer, she says, "You're a man," with this kind of weird, hungry look on her face, and he says, "Do I not look like one?" And I've thought about that line since that trailer came out. There's a lot of ways to read that line. And many of the interpretations along this chart that you could graph would involve some type of feeling like that was a commentary on one's masculinity. Don't I look like one? And he has none of that in his delivery. He's genuinely curious. What about your interpretation of being a man is unique here? He's like, it's a very, very outside the box kind of delivery, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's so nuanced. It's not. It's amazing. Like, I'm very sick of hearing about how Chris Pine is the best part of that movie, and that performance is everything. Like, when I hear that in light of what Gal Gadot did, we're right back there where it's just you have to make sure that you are exalting the male performance, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
But it's not his movie.
No, it's not his movie. And the moment, again, this is in the trailer, so this isn't a real spoiler, but the moment in the film when she steps up the ladder out of the trench into no man's land, I'm goosebumping right now, is it delivers everything that you think that scene might be delivering in the trailer and more. It's super moving.
And even just the way that they sequenced that, in the trailer you had the perfect ringlet hair view of her ascending up the ladder.
Yeah.
That's not in the movie. And they actually don't even reveal that armor until that scene as she's going up.
Yes, I noticed that too. You're totally right.
It's so...
You catch glimpses of the armor until then.
And you know it's there because you see it in, blurry focus right on the side of the screen when she looks at it to grab it. But it's amazing that they were able to keep it covered. You see just little flashes of it, and then it's not revealed until she's on that battlefield.
And let's just also talk about the aesthetic difficulty of your main character is not going to take off that armor for the whole movie. She's got it underneath all the things she's wearing. And they somehow managed not to make that a parody or a joke or something weird. She's just always like ready.
Yeah.
So by the way, that armor was made by my friends at FBFX in London. And I have held some pieces of the armor, and it is every bit as gorgeous in person.
It's extraordinary.
It has this luminosity to it. It feels like something otherworldly. It's metallized, but in those colors.
Yeah.
So it's a remarkable piece of engineering. And it was sculpted. The original for Batman v Superman was Ironhead Studios construction.
Yeah.
FBFX built it for the Wonder Woman film, based off of the aesthetics. They're very close. There's some color differences and some engineering differences, as I understand it. I have not seen the Ironhead one, but again, like full marks to that whole to her beautiful
but also,
accessories.
Her Themyscira daywear.
Yes, yeah.
I love that one too. It's beautiful. The lines of it are perfect. Even the gradient on the skirt, I love that armor. I love the boots. Everything about the Amazonian armor on all of them is extraordinary, and I want them all.
Well, let's get into spoiler territory.
Wait. I actually just want to ask a question. From your standpoint, because it felt to me, as I'm watching, yes, Gal Gadot is surpassingly lovely, but I also felt like I'm not seeing the kind of cheesecakey shots I would expect in this movie. And by cheesecakey, I mean the shot of Black Widow's perfect tiny waist and butt sashaying away from Captain America, which is all over all of the movies that Scarlett Johansson is in. Am I right?
And Gal Gadot has done that role.
We had this conversation right after the film. I'm so happy that it was a woman director. Not that all men would handle it the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, if you give it to Michael Bay, he's going to do it a certain way. If you're going to give, if Zack Snyder's
Wonder
doing
Woman looks
it,
just like Megan Fox.
and here's her vagina. Those gynecological shots are so grating to me. How do these get through? How do they think this is okay? How is this not obvious? Do they want it to be obvious? Do you not see how offensive that is? So you see something like that, and this is what you're used to. And then you see how a woman, this very talented director, handles these action sequences, and there's no exploitation in it.
None.
It's not gynecological, doesn't feel like you're being enticed in this way.
I don't feel like I'm oogling her while watching her fight.
You're watching her beat down some dudes, and she looks amazing. And it is sexy just because it's inherently sexy. You can't help it, but that's not what it's about. And so you're not hung up on it, you're not distracted by it, you're still watching the film and enjoying those beautiful body moves, her body lines, and the way that the outfit actually works when she's messing people up is just extraordinary.
Some of those shots of her spinning through the air while swinging the sword and then landing and running, I found I could just keep watching that a lot.
And not just for her character, but all the Amazons.
The fight sequence with the Amazons, with
well, let's we got to interstellar.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, at this point, we're
gonna talk.
It's
time to turn off your stereo or
watch the movie.
Yeah, you should see the movie before listening to the further stuff we're going to talk about.
So the first act is on
Themyscira,
and
the island of the Amazon.
Yes, and the cast is Connie Nielsen, who plays her Hippolyta. Right,
and Connie Nielsen played the love interest in Gladiator.
Right.
She played Commodus's sister.
That's right. Oh
Yes.
Yes.
Robin Wright plays the general.
Antiope.
And by the way, this movie passes the Bechdel test because there's a couple of lovely scenes between Connie Nielsen and Robin Wright, and they're talking about something other than a man.
And they both have names.
And they both have names.
Yes. The Amazons were portrayed so wonderfully. Robin Wright is fierce.
Is fierce, and the casting of the young Woman was also a beautiful bit of casting and performance.
Both. That's,
Right.
The kid, the
like
the
10 years old and then
yes.
14 years old. And
no, it was great. It was spot on. It was lovely. But I want to talk about that Robin Wright performance, because besides the fact that she is just cut and handling business, her her performance of her dialogue is with that accent that is so, like, could be awful in its little, not peculiarities, but its idiosyncrasies. Mm-hmm. She delivers a very interesting performance with that accent. And you feel it, and it's so good. Like, she is an actress.
Yeah. So it's what happens when you cast someone with that amount of power into a role. You get all wonderful. This extra wonderful stuff.
It was so, and to see, and again, it's Princess Buttercup. And
I know.
Yeah.
To see, to be at this end of her career and to see her ascend like this into such a role was just
the shot
satisfying.
Where she jumps and then slow motion turns around the 3 arrows, and it's like it's right out of a comic book shot, like
body
from the profile
form,
and looking at you.
And somebody I know, I can't remember who it was, tweeted that they saw this in the full IMAX digital projection that was 3D, and that sequence is shocking when you see it in that format.
The whole, you're talking about the Amazon fight scene on the beach with the Germans, even the training sequence as they are practicing how to fight on horseback. All of that stuff is so graceful. It's just like, it's beautiful, it's elegant to watch, but also it's believable. And they hired MMA fighters and athletes to be the Amazons.
Oh, cool.
And there are stories you can read about them walking on set, putting on armor, and feeling putting on armor makes you feel different. And even for an athlete, someone who's trained their whole life, putting on Amazonian armor can totally make you feel different.
There's some great behind the scenes pictures of all of them hanging out together.
Oh, really?
In their armor. It just feels.
You can tell it's. Oh, that must have been awesome. Yeah. So there's this one thing that I caught in an early trailer and thought, are they really going to do this? But the scene in the movie where the fully mature Diana is fighting
Antiope,
and brings the gauntlets of, I don't know what they're called, the gauntlets of truth or something like that.
It's bullets and bracelets.
Right.
So,
when she brings them and sets out that shock wave, right? And she starts to realize her true power. Yeah. And then, feeling complicated feelings about her true power, she goes off to think by herself, and at that moment, the plane crashes, and like World War I reaches Themyscira. I was like, really? You're gonna go? It's just gonna happen by happenstance, right? That's the one plot point that bothered me.
Which in my head, as I rewrite it, I think of as her power is awakening, and I love that. Like the scene where she jumps and retrieves the armor, like that discovery of power when she's breaking, slamming her hands into the side of the wall and feeling the delight, the joy in her face.
Right.
I feel like as her power awakened, it's like it was a mythological thing where then that was Ares bringing.
You're right. I just realized that they actually telegraphed throughout the film that the more Diana realizes her power, the easier she will be for Ares to find. That didn't occur to me, but of course that makes sense. That's the moment at which the world will enter their world. The worlds will crash together.
I didn't have the same problem you did with her being alone in that, because there had to be some pretext for her to be separated from all the other Amazons because she had to discover him alone, and there had to be that conflict.
Right, but it could have happened at any other point. She could have been like after, an ice cream sundae. She could have just.
They could have cut from there, like moment of contemplation, and then cut to another day.
Yeah.
Right, but I also like that. Again, we're in sports here. When Antiope dies, the first one to rush to her is clearly her lover, her partner.
Yes.
Which is not explicitly said, but it's the one that and the one that feels the most, and the one that's the most angered by her death. And also the time, like these Amazons are immortal, right? They're the whole pretext is that it's a flashback from modern day. So her training is, could be centuries.
Right.
It doesn't. It's not 20 years. It's it's enough time to be a true warrior, to read all these texts, to learn all these languages, and
that's
I
actually
love that.
So. When we're talking superpowers, I love that Diana's polyglot. That she can speak all the languages except for Native American, except for whatever the Native American chief, whatever he's.
Right.
What was, I don't know what the language he spoke was. I don't know if they listed it in the film.
When we saw it, it was funny because we saw it with Czech subtitles.
Right.
And they did not subtitle the languages in English.
Oh.
So when
whereas in English, they subtitled the languages into English.
So it just felt like these.
Oh, you didn't get what the dialogue was.
No.
So we just saw two polyglots having conversations with each other.
That would and whenever I'm asked what a superpower would I choose, flight or invisibility, I always think I'd rather speak every language. To me, that would be the most amazing.
We had that conversation recently, and that is what I said, and I completely forgot any sort of I did not remember that was one of Wonder Woman's things.
I never knew it.
So it was so strange, but I'm like, oh my god, that's right.
I'm also glad when the No Man's Land thing happens, and they really telegraph. Chris Pine says no man can cross that. That's why they call it No Man's Land. She doesn't say I am no man.
Yes.
Which is the Lord of the Rings,
right?
Return of
Yeah.
the King line, which it plays real well in that scene.
It plays in your head.
It does.
And it's like one of my favorite movies in the world. You Can Count on Me. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Oh.
Laura Linney and Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
So the title of the movie is You Can Count on Me. Here's a spoiler alert about You Can Count on Me. And if you haven't seen it, you should watch it because it's amazing. And this doesn't really spoil the movie. But towards the very end of the film, they've gone through all these difficulties as brother and sister in handling some very complicated life things. And they're sitting on a bench, and he says, remember what we used to, this is actually making me a little choked up. He says, remember what we used to say to each other as kids? Remember that phrase? And then he doesn't say it. And what the movie's being titled that gives you is you become one of the two of them sitting on the bench because it's a memory you have. You realize, oh, the movie's called You Can Count on Me. And then you participate with them in remembering the phrase rather than it being punched you in the face. And that moment in No Man's Land did that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's great, and plus it's pacing. It's like at the halfway point in the film.
Yeah.
Not at the turn to Act 3 or it's literally it's like Patty Jenkins is like, I'm going to give you some amazing action, really, really up front before all this other crap goes down.
And what I also love at the end of that spectacular action sequence, where her power goes stronger. It's relative to her, how into battle she is. At the end, she's actually celebrating with the villagers. She's like there's this, everyone's cheering. She's smiling and she's embracing them. They're embracing her, and you don't see that. That's a big criticism of Batman or the Man of Steel. One, he doesn't save people, but they don't love him.
Destroying an entire city in a fist fight.
There's no humanity in it. There's no, it's...
No, and she's really moved by the people that she's protecting and inspiring them, right? The reason that she is instrumental in that No Man's Land sequence isn't because she single-handedly defeats the enemy. It's because she actually draws fire and allows and inspires all the people on that battlefield to join in and take back that town.
Oh my god, when she's swatting away the
the homage,
Oh god, that scene.
But we got to talk about the ending.
Okay,
right.
I also want to talk about a couple of the. There's three villains in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Danny Houston is the one who plays the general. He's the one most prominently featured in the trailer. And then there's the actress whose name escapes me, who plays Dr. Poison with the mask, and she wears this creepy mask you've seen in the trailers. I love that mask. It has real historical precedence.
Mm-hmm.
There's a character from Boardwalk Empire
My
that
favorite
wears...
character from Boardwalk Empire.
Richard
Harrow.
Totally eerie and
in
compelling.
World War I, the idea is that as people were disfigured, they would have prosthetics to cover their faces.
But the prosthetics were literally like right out of Vanilla Sky. You would just wear this part of a mask sculpted to look like you.
Hers is done in 3 parts, so it's so beautifully articulated in such an interesting... it's amazing.
And she's a really complicated character. Like you find you like her brilliant. You get that she's really brilliant. You understand that she is a woman alone in this man's world, and she's really messed up and evil, and yet complex. And there's something about that damage that sets up something other than she's scary. She's genuinely scary, and this is like
enjoys.
Yeah.
Destruction.
Right. She's peering through the glass to watch the people die from the poison.
But neither of them is the big villain.
No, but they tried. I think they do a good job with misdirection because
I didn't see that one coming. I understood from the moment they said, "No, only the God Killer," and they think it's the sword, and I knew at that moment someone would go, "You, Diana, you're the God Killer," and it didn't bother me. Sometimes the telegraph beats don't bug me, and that one didn't.
And it turns out neither of them are Ares, and Ares is
David Thewlis.
Yes, who.
David Thewlis' big breakthrough was the Mike Leigh film Naked, which, if you haven't seen it, is a mind-blowing tour de force of acting. He has been he was in the Harry Potter films. He's been in a bunch of stuff. I feel like he falls into my head like Oliver Platt, like an amazing, incredible actor that never quite
breaks through,
got their big breakthrough, but they make everything that they're in better, and they make everyone they're acting opposite better.
So he is Ares, and he reveals himself after Diana kills Danny Houston's character, who she thinks in general is Ares. And it's your classic, the meek man is actually the big
misdirection
god.
Yeah.
I don't think he was miscast in that role. I think they could have played with that if being a facade and have another. And I think it would be okay to have a little bit of stunt casting, because the thing that took me out of it was the flashback scenes where he talks about being thrown off of Olympus, and he's like naked and buff, but it's still him with the mustache.
Ridiculous mustache.
Oh, I didn't even see. I didn't notice that. The problem was in that fight scene is I wasn't really scared of Ares. I sort of knew. I know a woman. I'm not sure it's because I knew that Wonder Woman's going to survive, because the movie begins in the present day at the Louvre, where apparently she works her whole important job on an Android tablet. But I wasn't scared of him. I wasn't frightened of him, and I was frightened of Danny Houston, and I was really frightened of Dr. Poison. So it seemed like I was moving down this ladder.
Well, if the theme of the movie seems to be that as a flashback, she at the end of this flashback is disillusioned a little bit, right? Like she's less naive about the goodness in pure goodness in man,
which is the ambivalence about the goodness of man is a central theme in the DC universe films. And
her coming back in Batman v Superman is to be a champion again. Ares doesn't need to die to for this to happen. He can be scary. Wonder Woman doesn't need to die for Ares to win.
Right.
Ares can win by making her disillusioned.
Right.
And he does that to some effect. Like the reveal, it's like a watchtower, right? And he's behind the glass.
Yeah.
And they're
that was a lovely bit.
Yeah.
They're circling each other, and in my head, there was a perfect opportunity as they're circling each other for them to fade him away.
Yeah.
And be basically, the white man in every war room.
Right.
Sparking war.
Interesting.
And then do some stunt casting. I threw out a couple names. We had a discussion about this. I thought it could have been Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah.
And I thought it could have been.
If Viggo's in the film, though, you immediately know that he's going to be the big baddie.
Well, at the end, that's the reveal. I'm saying. At the end, he transforms into and reveals exactly.
Viggo.
Yeah, so sort of like Matt Damon in Interstellar, where it's this big surprise.
Whoa!
It's only a surprise for so long.
Or Tom Hardy. Let him be his true form.
And actually, that would be cool, because one of Viggo's early films is in a film called Prophecy, where Christopher Walken plays the Archangel Gabriel. Do you know this film?
Yeah, no, I was obsessed with it. It's amazing.
And Chris Maloney, right? It stars Chris Maloney from Law and Order SVU.
Eric Stoltz.
Eric Stoltz plays another angel. Yeah. Chris Maloney plays the human. Yeah. Christopher Walken plays Gabriel, and Viggo Mortensen at 25 plays the devil, and he is the scariest devil in almost any film except the devil from Constantine, and I can never remember that actor's name. The devil from Constantine is an actor who was in 8mm.
this one we figured out? Was it?
Is it the character actor that's like in Minority Report and?
He's like he always plays like a Russian. He always has this
from The Saint.
I never saw The Saint.
You never saw The Saint? The Saint is wonderful.
Is it really good?
I don't know if it holds up, but it was wonderful. Elizabeth Shue. Oh my God.
Wait, you mean the Val Kilmer Saint?
Yeah.
Oh, I have seen
the remake.
That. Yeah.
I don't think the villain's the same villain though.
Anyway,
yeah.
Go ahead and tell us in the comments.
But Vigo,
Vigo is amazing.
That's why I would have
Vigo
wanted.
is amazing as the devil. You're right. I could see that. Right. You get a second actor like the Kevin Spacey reveal in Seven,
where you get the danger. You get more like you kind of strip away the. I don't want to call him a schlub, but like the unoffensive, doughy white man that was just meant as misdirection or was taken as misdirection. Where you don't buy this guy.
They pull off the Dwight Schrute skin, and it turns out to be
not for a second. Even when he's like forming his armor and all that, it just doesn't work.
You know, I since the very beginning of my love for action movies, which I bring to the summer of, I think, 1979 when Raiders came out, and so did, I think, Moonraker and a million other incredible films. Not Moonraker. At any rate, the thing is that I understood from like 17 on is that the villains have to scare you, and they have to be scary in order for you to feel involvement. And Thoth, the German from Raiders, is a genuinely terrifying villain. Yeah. Yes, Fräulein, I know you will.
Yes.
Really, really scary. And the Ares was not terrifying
At all.
No. So what would you want?
That like full reveal. Like I didn't have a problem with the fact that didn't quite work. I still loved everything all the way through.
And I'm actually completely okay with muddling, or in this version, this cycle, changing Wonder Woman's origin story.
Yep.
I think that if we live in a place where we've had this many Batmans and this many different cycles of film, I think it's fine to explore other directions and leave those open to do, hopefully, more wonderful Wonder Woman films in the future.
Yeah, and soon Spider-Man's mother will be like 15 years old. She gets success. Aunt May gets younger in every film.
What would you guys want from a sequel on Wonder Woman? Would you want another period piece? Something after?
Well, she's going to show up in Justice League, so we're going to see modern day. So it makes sense to me to bounce back in history to earlier adventures of Wonder Woman, which is still problematic because you'll know that she's going to survive. So she's going to have to, I guess, clearly lose people important to her.
I feel that I want to see a return to the mascara, or at least her attempt to. Like, why doesn't she go back? I would love to see more of that world. There's the whole what was she doing during World War II? Right.
At the point of this podcast, I still don't think that Patty Jenkins has officially made a deal to direct the second episode, which has been talked about in the press a lot as a big miss, a kind of chauvinistic miss on the studio's part for not locking her up before the film got released, because now she's holding all the cards, which is great.
Yes.
I really look forward to seeing what she does with this, because as far as I'm concerned, she belongs in the pantheon of excellent, awesome action directors.
And she's created room to run. They should let her run. I feel like with the way they portrayed the Germans, which were standing for Nazis, that probably is going to preclude them doing a World War II episode with her. I wish they would, but I think that they kind of, because Patty Jenkins wanted to do World War II, and it was an idea that got, she ended up trading it for World War I. Like, the Germans are the Nazis.
Except that, bear with me, the Germans weren't monolithically evil as Nazis always are in World War II films. In Wonder Woman, the enemy wasn't the Germans as much as it was war in general. We spent a lot more time on the fact that of just countless senseless deaths on both sides, civilian and military, and it not being just Germans stepping on people's necks while shooting babies.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a level of complexity that I was glad for.
But if they did a World War II and you still have the Germans as your main enemy,
yeah.
then it's just a retread over.
So Vietnam?
Oh, Jesus. Sweet baby Jesus.
It's not. I mean, that's a challenge for a writer.
She also says in Batman v Superman, I've killed things from other worlds before.
And I want to see that.
So they have a setup. Ares is from, like, the gods are from Earth, or of Earth, let's say. I feel like there's room to go out into the literal Marvel DC universe.
A little bit of wiggle room.
Yeah.
Just in case they want to use it.
So,
It's
yeah,
there.
maybe Thanos. Who knows?
Take her out of play.
Oh wait, no, sorry,
that's
he's
Marvel. No, but like there's DC, like there's the new gods and stuff like that. But like take her out of play. Explain that she's not in World War II because she was, there's some other big threat.
Yeah.
It would be my preference that they don't jump directly to modern day because there's so much there.
Yeah,
Especially when just Wonder Woman's history in general is so interesting. To bring her just from the World War I into right now is too bad.
I totally agree. I think you're both right. I think that another prehistory film makes total sense within this canon.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good place to wrap this.
Absolutely.
So much fun. I'm going to go see it again.
We're going to see it again.
I saw it at the Alamo Draft House with my family.
Oh.
For the first
in
time?
San Francisco, yeah.
Really? I love the Alamo Draft House. We've sort of created a policy where we're not going to go see a movie for the first time there, just because it can be very interrupty.
Yes. Yeah. I understand. I understand your fidelity to the movie-going experience. But now we can choose our seats at Metreon, which is a nice thing. So as soon as I get back to San Francisco from this trip, I plan to go see it again.
Yeah.
We'll see it at least one more time.
Go see Wonder Woman. Thanks for joining us. What's up on Tested this week?
This week, beginning at the end of the week is the National Week of Making.
Yes!
And we'll have some videos from the team and some of our friends.
Well, Tested members know that I sit on the board of directors of Nation of Makers, and one of my personal responsibilities in making is outreach and proselytization. And so Tested will be featuring a different video every day of the week of making, featuring different makers and featuring different ways of looking at making.
Yes. And if all goes right, crossing fingers, we should have a one-day build-up tomorrow with Laura Kemp.
Oh, love Laura Kemp. She's so awesome. That's great. I hope that works.
Yes, check that out. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, lovely Danica, for joining us.
There's not a topic I would like to rant or speak more about than this, so I'm very happy to be here.
Good. Wonder Woman. So I want to tell you, there's some amazing Wonder Woman costumes being built and offered on Etsy right now. As soon as we're done with this podcast, I'll show you a couple.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye. This week's episode of Still Untitled is brought to you by Casper Mattresses. Thanks to Casper for sponsoring us today. The Casper is an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly fair price. Supportive memory foams create an award-winning sleep surface with just the right amount of sink and just the right bounce. Try Casper for 100 nights risk-free in your own home. If you don't love it, they'll pick it up and refund you everything. Casper understands the importance of sleeping on a mattress before you commit, especially when considering that you're going to spend a third of your life on it. And there's free shipping and returns in the US and Canada. Now, listeners of Still Entitled can get $50 toward any mattress purchase by visiting www.casper.com/untitled and using the offer code UNTITLED. Terms and conditions may apply. And we'll see you next week.